Hey everybody, Coast-to-Coast Combat Hour, brought to you by AllAccessMMA.com. Happy New Year from Ed Carbajal and Matthew Hawkins. Um, First podcast of the year before we get into the news of the week that we have to get into. We do have a guest this week that you'll be hearing after we talk about current events. I spoke with Pam of Veracity Marketplace. VeracityMarketplace.com sells CBD based products. I met her out here actually just a couple of weeks ago at the NBA Horror Con. Folks, so you know that I'm a horror head. I was just, but perchance I met her. She let me try some of her stuff. I spoke to her about it. She had no idea that CBD was such a big thing in combat sports, and it was just crazy that we got to talking. She schooled me on some knowledge about CBD. So that'll be the second half of the podcast. So if you want to jump ahead, I'll put this timestamps once everything is uploaded in the description, so you can watch it. The full video audio version will be on Spotify. I don't know if I'm going to be able to upload the second half to YouTube, but I just figured I'd let you know because everybody's trying to do something in the new year to lose some weight, feel a little bit better, be a little younger, move faster, be stronger. But anyway, Matt, how was your New Year's, man?
It was good. I figured out a way how to watch the Rise in Bellator event live, start to finish. So even
Crazy.
at 44 years old, I was able to pull the all-nighter. Um,
I didn't pull no all-nighter.
yeah,
I woke up at 5 a.m. to watch it. That's just you saw the whole thing. I watched the Rise and Bellator part.
yeah, no, I fought through the whole thing. I was proud of myself when I managed to make it, and then kind of regretted it shortly
Uh
thereafter. Uh,
Listen, you and I have talked about these this particular night for MMA. You're a pro at it. I'm not somebody that I always used to just watch it later. And but I had an opportunity to, obviously, because I did media for it. If anybody followed me on Twitter, you saw I did stuff for the media. I was on the Zooms and everything. So they sent me a link to watch just that part when it happened from Bellator, and man, was I happy! I never when they played that Pride music at the beginning of the Bellator Rising part, I literally, I want it was at 5. I'm yelling. It's 5 o'clock in the morning. I'm screaming in my apartment like, "Oh no, they didn't!" You know, like I was just so impressed with it. I liked it. I'm usually not a fan of stuff that when fights go to decision, but whoever did the matchmaking there, they did their they did their homework, man. Oh, your audio just cut out for a second, Matt. Um,
Gotcha. I'm back. I'm sorry. I had to check a quick voicemail. That odd phone call I just got. But yeah, yeah. Matchmaking was tight for the most part. Um, the Ryzen 40 part of the card was just fireworks, nonstop
yeah,
finishes, um, knockouts. Just made it easy. Made it easy for the first half. Then you got the intermission, which rolled into the Bellator, which obviously the excitement was I was able to keep me going. And it kicked off. It kicked off good. With a real close fight between Rabdanov and Takada. Um, I kind of had it as a coin flip, honestly. It started off real strong for Bellator. When the fight
hmm
was all said and done, I would have been okay with either man winning. Um, Judges gave it to Bellator and Rabadonov. Um, but I kind of felt like he came out strong, and then the Japanese fighter kind of won the last half of the fight, but
yeah,
there was too much damage done. The way Bella Ryzen scores is pride
yeah,
rules, so damage can happen in the first 10 seconds of a fight, and unless the other fighter kind of equals that out, even if he's winning kind of the minutes, unless he's doing some damage, it really doesn't overcome it. Um, so that fight was good. It was a decision, but exciting. Um, then obviously that moved into the fight that I think we probably talked almost the most about with Nolan last week. I know it was a fight you were super excited about. Um, uh, Kim versus Archuleta.
hmm
I made a lot of bold statements about how great Archuleta is and how I think he's possible still a future champion. It doesn't really change with this fight, but I kind of thought he lost.
mm.
I again, he kind of came out strong in the beginning, but I thought the Japanese fighter, the rising fighter, Kim, really, I thought he
Well,
won the fight. I thought he did a little more damage, and I thought he was a little bit more active than
yeah,
you
and
know.
that's what I mean by like them doing their homework with the matchmaking for this. I mean, just to rewind back to that first fight, I think Koji Takada deserves some credit. I don't recall. I mean, maybe you do because you're always better about remembering stuff like this than I am. I don't recall Fighter X doing as well as he did against a Dagestani based wrestling MMA, Team Khabib guy, especially in the second round. Yeah, I know he got dropped in the first round, like you said, damage and everything. But the counter wrestling, especially in round two, because I watched it twice. I actually watched it when it happened, and then New Year's Eve at night, I was watching it again on Showtime, which I was super glad Showtime showed that intro too, because I think American mixed martial arts fans need to see that, especially if they're looking for new options for MMA in 2023 for reasons we're going to talk about later. But yeah, man, I feel like he definitely deserved credit, and I know Khabib came in the ring afterward and gave him credit. And so obviously, because I was involved with all the Zoom media stuff and everything. Apparently, Khabib had only watched Pride like fights, like the video of the fights themselves. He never really paid attention to an event. I guess as he was still training with bears or whatever. But but apparently, he was like really taken by the presentation of mixed martial arts in Japan. Like Scott Coker was talking about in the post-fight press conference of how impressed Khabib was. Just like, I mean, I'm fucking around when I say this, but apparently this is my summation of Khabib's what Coker said. But the reaction to Khabib was he was just like, "Yo, what the hell are they doing over there presenting MMA in comparison to how you know they do it over there with this?" Right? Again, if you haven't seen that intro, just watch it. I guarantee you'll be like, "What the fuck is the UFC?" if you watch the way that they put on the show, man. But I'm sorry, you're halfway through
No,
the
no,
card.
no, I agree with you 100%. And that was I saw a lot of takes from people on Twitter who really were seemed to be kind of new to the whole
Yeah,
Japanese scene and the spectacle that it creates. And
yeah,
um, I
yeah.
we've said it a million times, and maybe people did. I feel like most people that listen to our show probably are a little bit more on the
Hmm.
to listen to us. We talk about it all the time. The spectacle in the past and some of the stuff. So I feel like they're probably a little bit more up to date on what the history of some of these
Hmm.
fights were. Um, but yeah, I mean that's what makes it fun to watch. That's what it makes it so non-cookie cutter. You got guys
Hmm.
coming out in gladiator outfits and all that stuff. And
They're
there's
still showing Archuletta's entrance today on social media.
I mean, and there's times where
Yeah.
it's cheesy. There's times where it can be over the top. If you watch enough Japanese events, you're gonna see some stuff that's gonna make you question your sanity.
Yeah.
But it's the joy and the fun and the circus atmosphere that makes it fun for me as somebody and you who don't take this as and as a bad time to say this during this week, but as a life and death, it, you know,
Mhm.
thing. This is fun. This is, it's fighting, but we like it when they go in there and fight and they walk out. It's joy,
Yeah.
a real show. They go fight and then they shake hands, hug, and go have a beer
Hmm.
after the
Yeah,
fight.
exactly. No trash talking. None of this fighting outside of the arena and fighting at the weigh-ins. None of that. They literally just came to let's see what's what when from round one to the end of the final round. Let's see who's got what. And yeah, man, that was definitely on full display. And again, I never I always get a little pissed off when all the fights go to a decision. I was completely happy with this event.
Yeah, there was some slow points. I felt like when we'll get in, not so much the first two fights. To me, the first two fights were really good
Hmm.
decisions, a lot of action. Even the third fight, Oga Kubo and Horiguchi.
Hmm.
Horiguchi dominated basically bell to bell.
Yeah.
Had a couple chances to finish. I thought he was going to finish, but I think it was the first round. Uh, Oga Kubo kind of got saved by the bell a little bit um,
Yeah,
after being
that's
dropped.
3 for 3, so that no more Horiguchi Okubo.
Yeah, no, I don't think
Yeah.
that needs to happen anymore. But another good fight, big win for Horiguchi, a must win for him, as I kind of
Mhm.
stated. It'll be interesting to see again where he ends up going now, weight class wise, and if he's hungry and wants to go after some revenge over in Bellator.
Mm-hmm.
I think a Sergio Pettis fight again somehow. We get there without him having to go through Apache mix is something maybe we need to see at some point. Maybe it's
Mm-hmm.
Pettis losing the belt and then fighting Horiguchi in a non-title fight to, like a number one contender fight to perhaps fight Mix or Stotts or whoever ends up out of that Grand Prix with the other belt, or however they end up working it. But I think that's a fight that needs to happen again, considering what he was doing the first time they fought. Um, but then you move to the fourth fight. Pitbull, I'm wearing his shirt right now. Um, he dominated. This was the one fight that was like it had some
Mm-hmm.
moments where there was some grappling with uh, Koike,
Mm-hmm.
um, but I felt like that was the one fight that really showed kind of a discrepancy in talent a little bit. I
Mm-hmm.
felt like that was the one where it was like, this one's maybe not the fight that, and I kind of felt like Pitbull held back a little bit because we talked about how much was on the line in these fights. And I think perhaps if that was Bellator, maybe he goes in harder at some moments to try to really finish the fight.
Mm-hmm.
But in this case, he kind of held back a little bit and he just dominated. I don't think there was ever a moment where like he wasn't going to win the fight. Um, but I felt like that was the one fight that was a little bit of a mismatch, and honestly, the one kind of slower fight on of these five that I was kind of like it was a hard one to get through, but I
Mm-hmm.
had to get through that one. It's 4 a.m. in the morning. You've been up since God knows when. Pride started to step in for me, and I had to grind through that one to get to the main event. But I don't know what you thought about
Mm-hmm.
that fight, but I think Pitbull might be just too much for probably almost anybody in Ryzen, to be honest with you. When you're looking at weight class skill for
Yeah.
skill, at that division.
Yeah, I thought it was cool how he walked in wearing the gladiator thing, especially when they did the whole with the poster and everything they did. I thought it was weird that McKee wore a samurai outfit, but especially to find out that he spent $100,000 on it or something like that. So I thought that was weird. But to your point about Pitbull, I mean, it's weird like that. It's of all the fights, that was probably the one that was least because it was just kind of so telling. Someone commented though, because of like if you're comparing rosters, I know that because of COVID, like a lot of the more I don't want to say higher tier fighters, a nice way of saying that Ryzen's better fighters went to go fight elsewhere because of the COVID restrictions and stuff in Japan, which is kind of why Horiguchi fought on the Bellator side versus being on the Ryzen side. I mean, he's from Japan and he was there. He fought there more before COVID hit. Um, so I feel like that might be also part of it too. Like they need to kind of like now that things are slowly opening up, getting back to some kind of normalcy. Maybe they can strengthen their roster, for whenever they do this again if they do it again. I honestly, I mean, it's cool if they do it every New Year's Eve. That I would love to make that a tradition, despite the weird hours for me and you. But I wouldn't mind if like they did it like 6 months from now. They did like summer series or something like that when they go to Hawaii or whatever. Whatever is more convenient for them to do it again. And again, I mean, Coker didn't like my grappling idea, but Sakakibara seemed to like it when if you check that media call, you can see him nodding his head when I bring it up. Um, but I do think I don't think it's always going to be that way, but it was definitely a way for Bellator to stomp their foot on the ground and say, you know, none of those guys were retired UFC guys, with the exception of I mean, he wasn't retired; he just left the UFC, Horiguchi. But you know what I mean? Like
Hmm.
everyone else was like Bellator built talent, not an old guy, not all the bullshit that everyone likes to say. That's homegrown talent from Bellator, and they went outside of their comfort zone into. I don't mean this in a disparaging way, but they went into enemy territory with rules that they don't normally fight under in a setting they don't normally fight under, and they went there and they fucking kicked ass in every sense of the word. So I think I think Bellator trying to put Bellator some respect on Bellator's name.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the main event, AJ McKee also picked up a win over Souza.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
That was a
and
great fight too.
it was a good fight. And
Yeah.
when the final bell rang, I thought McKee won, but I would not have been surprised if they would have given it to Souza. It was one of
Yeah.
those situations where you kind of had to outweigh some grappling, and Souza just simply just didn't do enough damage when he had McKee's back. Um, he's fishing for a rear naked choke, which is great, but at sometimes maybe you need to sneak in some punches there, try to cut your opponent. I mean, there's a lot of visual when it comes to judging MMA.
Mhm.
So when you don't really do damage and you're kind of the guy that's bleeding a little bit out of the nose or out of the mouth, that can affect the judging. But I wasn't overly impressed with McKee's performance, but
Mhm.
again, I felt like it was one where he played it a little bit safe and knew what he
Mhm.
had to do, and he's playing a dangerous submission opponent, just like Pitbull. When you're in a game where one small move and all of a sudden your ankle's twisted around and 360
Mhm.
degrees, you gotta be, and especially with Souza, who I mean, I thought he was going to submit him when he got his back a couple
Dude.
times. I thought it was over. I
So
thought he
I
was.
mean, you're talking about him playing it safe. I didn't think he was playing it safe at all, especially in the first round when he's diving into his guard where he's most dangerous, and
Yeah,
his own
it's true.
corner, his dad is yelling, "Stand up, get out, stand up," and he wasn't standing up or getting out. And then at the close of the fight, when he took his back and he's fighting off the choke submissions, I was just like, "Yo, there was I was it was a tense fight to watch." I mean, that was I actually when they re-aired it too, I was like, if you're a fan of jujitsu and MMA and you want to see somebody really threatening, watch this fight because Souza definitely is another one. I know he said he wanted to come to Bellator and if they did a 155 GP Grand Prix and compete in it. I mean, I think if he works on his cardio and his striking, 100% he could do it because that's where McKee had him: cardio and striking.
Yeah, no, I think he should. You know, yeah, I think he should go train with Shooto Box or some of those guys
Hmm.
and get some striking in. Um, and and I think he can definitely be a threat. Eh, Playing it safe was probably not the right word because obviously, like you said, he was diving into his guard and doing some stuff that was a little bit stupid. I guess I feel like I'm spoiled because we've seen AJ McKee just be so
Hmm.
spectacular in some fights, and it's like you keep waiting for that flying knee, and he threw one, um,
Yeah.
but I guess for me it's just weird when you don't see him just dominate because he's done so many whether it's a freaky submission or a quick 9-second knockout or
Hmm.
flying knees and hangman guillotines and all that
Yeah.
stuff. It's just
Yeah.
you kind of get I think I've gotten spoiled by expecting that as opposed to just realizing that obviously every fight's an individual fight and styles make fights. And when you're fighting a guy who you don't really want to touch you,
Yeah.
you're okay with him punching you, but you don't want him grabbing you. Um, that's
Yeah.
that's definitely.
And it's definitely a testament to him being a second generation mixed martial artist too, man. I mean, just to see him come in. I mean, he could have made a mistake that a lot of fighters make and try to be like, oh, let's see who's better on the ground, which I guess he kind of did by engaging him down there, but he didn't play that game like he went down on the ground with him, but he was still striking away and firing away. I mean, despite the threats that Souza put on him, it was a great fight. Again, I mean, the striking and cardio was definitely that's where he had it in the bag. He didn't seem tired or anything by the end of the fight, whereas Souza was, you could see noticeably was gasping, especially by the end of the second round. So it was definitely, if you didn't get a chance to watch it, we were talking about it even last night when the class that I teach, my jiu-jitsu class, was over. People were asking about it, and I was telling them, if you didn't see it, you need to see it because I mean, if it's something that's making Khabib like drop his jaw watching just the presentation of it, then that's what people call that he's like the greatest of all time to the current MMA fan. Then you know what I mean. Like you definitely owe yourself a watch, especially if you're looking for new options to watch MMA in 2023, which some people might be doing, Matt, because of the stuff that unfortunately came up in the news as we came into the new year. I mean, we have the UFC is they have a lot of, what do we call that? They got a lot of dirty laundry to clean. What's the term I'm looking for?
You know, they got some baggage right now. That's
Hmm.
okay. So basically, obviously, what we're hinting at is the Dana White situation where on New Year's Eve he was caught in Cabo San Lucas at a bar. I believe he was Squid Row down in
Should have been
Cabo.
watching Rising.
You know, um, and he got caught in a domestic dispute with his wife where
Mhm.
they, where they hit each other or slapped each
Yeah,
other. Um, it's weird to me because obviously my stance is he's wrong to obviously put his hands on a woman. I don't
of
believe that
course.
it's something. I mean, I think me and you were raised. We were raised at the same generation. We were raised that that's just something you don't do.
Mhm.
Um, I don't know about you personally. For me, I've been slapped by a woman before, and believe me, I wanted to fire back, but you can't do it. It's not what a man is supposed to do. And I just think it's embarrassing seeing the defense come. If you're on Dana White's side, just shut the fuck up. Don't need to defend him.
Yeah,
Sit
yeah.
sit sit in your corner and realize that like your opinion is garbage and you don't need to defend him. Do I think Dana White should lose his job and be canceled? I don't, because I don't believe in that. I don't believe what he did was so egregious that we should try to end a man's reputation and career. However, I feel like he would be the first one to do it to somebody else, and that's where it, I'm not big on the canceling of anybody for anything short of like felony, you know, really, really doing some damage. He hit her with a closed fist. You shut that guy down, and he should never be seen in public again. The way we saw it, it was a drunken spat between a husband and a wife, and I don't understand the defending of him. I don't understand the immediate rush to of all these fighters. It's just pathetic, and it really makes me sick that these people feel like that's the hill that they want to die on, and they're going to defend. You're not going to get another title shot because you decide to defend it. Like, just shut up. And then it's these other fans. It's like we don't draw the line. Like, we get it. Like, we argue about the equality thing, and some of us bullshit. Well, if they want equality, I guess you can hit them back. No, no, that's not what we want in equality. That's not how it's supposed to be.
Mhm.
That's that's third world country shit, that caveman stuff that we were supposed to have moved upon over, beyond couple hundred years ago. Let's keep this, let's keep it civil, and realize that you're just not supposed to do that. And to me, there's no excuse for putting your hands on a woman. In that situation, she didn't pull a gun on him. She didn't pull a knife on him. She didn't hit him with a 2x4. Like, where you're defending your life, or you're defending your livelihood, or he's not this wasn't some strange woman that tried to attack his family, and he's defending his daughter or his son or whoever the hell he's got. You know what I mean? Like that. There's other situations. The situation at hand here, he was totally out of line. I do appreciate a bit of him kind of not saying no excuse. I'm wrong. However, I thought TMZ is a joke. Like, run the story. You don't run the story with the interview at the same time. Like, you held on to that story for a couple days until you got interviews from him. You should have ran that story the second you got it, and let the public figure out how they want to judge the situation, and then go from there, like you would with any other person on the friggin' planet that you don't have a side deal with. Um,
Yeah,
it,
and
you know,
they're in bed with everyone. Those TMZ's in bed with the UFC, like just like ESPN is, and Yahoo. I mean, all those people that wrote these. I mean, the stuff that ESPN. Brett. Of course, who writes the piece about Dana White? Brett Okamoto, and it's just about regurgitating what TMZ put out there, and underlying the fact that he apologized, he apologized, he apologized. Like, that fucking means anything now, like it. And then immediately after he puts that out, like seconds later, he puts fights we want to see in 2023. It's like, you know what, dude, like, you want to see what he's about in covering the UFC and Dana White. Look at his end of the year interview, the one that Dana White said was supposed to explain the gambling thing with James Crowder. But it's we're starting to see like how bad people will lick the boots of the person throwing them the stuff they want to see. That's why I'm talking about now. If you're now's the time to if this bothers you that much and you're going to step away from watching the UFC, now's the time to start watching Bellator, because Scott Coker's not slapping any ladies around, and neither is Chatri, neither is whomever else out there that's running. You know what I mean? That we know about, because they're not that so big that to act like that in public where you're going to be recorded and act so damn stupid. But the other thing too is what what folks are waiting to see that we're not getting, because Dana White likes to act like he don't have a boss. I don't give a fuck what he says or anyone. He's got a boss, and people are waiting to see what and Ari from Endeavor has to say. What are you going to do about this? Your broadcast partner, ESPN, owned by Disney. I mean, are you guys literally? I mean, it looks like you're trying to just brush it under the rug and not address it at all. Are you hoping everyone's going to forget about it? Probably one of the better pieces. I shared it because I forget his name. Uh, there's a piece on MMA fighting written by Jed Meshew that I think Gross or Nash or one of those guys. Hey, not the face. I think it's his Twitter handle that shared it, and I retweeted and read it because he quotes Dana White when he talks about Greg Hardy situation, where he says you don't bounce back from putting your hands on a woman, and they're asking if he's going to be held accountable for his actions, which I think is the best question to ask. Oh, here I just brought it up to share. I'm going to share the screenshot of it so you know what you're looking for if you want to read it. It's on MMA fighting. This article right here. Oh, it's not sharing. Well, here it is. Sorry. I just want so folks know what they're looking for, so they have a visual aid. But you don't bounce back from putting your hands on a woman. Will Dana White be held accountable for his actions? That's the headline, and it's a really well written piece about the whole situation where he mentions the Greg Hardy thing and all the stuff and all the times that he's spoken out against it. The stuff that the TMZ article tried to like underline so many times to kind of, it's almost like they're trying to make you forget that this happened. And the whole reason why I'm bringing it up is because the closing part of it is asking, you know, like you said, the stuff, the stuff that I read, the ESPN one from Akamoto and Kevin Iles.
Kevin Iole can go jump in he should go drown himself. Go tie a brick around your foot and go jump in Lake Michigan, you piece of garbage.
Did you read that one though? That like.
Yeah, I read it. Yeah,
he may as well have been massaging his balls.
He gave to charity 10 years ago, so it's okay to slap a woman. Dude, what a scumbag. Okamoto, we've talked about him in the past. He's the new shiny object with ESPN covering a sport that he just got into a handful of years ago. Ioli's been around forever, but my God, this dude's lecturing other people about their own medical decisions and stuff, and now he's covering for what we see on video here. The guy just can't. The guy's a scumbag and one of the worst writers and one of the worst just jabronis, to use a wrestling term, in the history of this sport. The bottom line with Dana White is you get what you wanted. You wanted to be owned by Disney. You wanted to be on ESPN. There was people who spoke up when they got the ESPN deal and said it's time for Dana White to step aside because it's just a matter of time before he says or does something where it's going to embarrass your company. Yeah. And that time has come now. And I second of all, man, like, we're both older. We both still like to go to the bars and have a good time, but this dude's 53-year-old multimillionaire. Like, what are you doing at a friggin' club in Cabo San Lucas? Like, I just don't. The dude obviously hasn't grown up. I don't know about all the ins and outs between him and his wife. I didn't even really know I had no idea what his wife looked like. I had no idea what her name was. I still don't know what her name is because I haven't paid attention enough to really care. She was out of line as well. It looked like a drunk couple getting into it, but I don't know what his wife does for a living. I can't cancel his wife. I can't suspend his wife. I have nothing. I don't. There's nothing that can be done. I see people going, well, what are the repercussions from her? It's like, well, nothing. Nothing. What? She's not Dana White. She's not the president of the UFC. If she was the president of the UFC, then we would talk about it. But there's no other president or commissioner of any other organization or any other sporting league in this friggin' world that would get away with what he got caught on camera
Yeah,
doing.
and that's the
And
point. Like people are making the comparison to like Goodell and the NFL and stuff like that. Like people would want to see, whoever the powers over them that be do something about it. And as of right now, and I keep checking Twitter, I don't see anything happening. Like,
I don't think anything's going to happen because it's all about money. They don't. It's all everything's lip service. No, nobody. It's all a big joke. It's all lip service, and it's just,
mhm,
it's embarrassing. And it's like you said, like, you know, we see Scott Coker, we see these other guys, we assume that they're good guys. We don't hear anything bad about him. Dana White has a history of using language that's, um, you know, uh, uh, you know, disparaging language towards certain groups of people and stuff in the past. Um, and like, you just can't do that stuff. You just can't do it in public. You can't say that stuff out loud at times. You can't get caught hitting your wife on New Year's, like,
mhm,
and expect there not to be repercussions. So, historically, that's a weird quote from Dana about bouncing back, considering gave Hardy a trillion chances. Um,
mhm.
I hate to talk about a man who passed away, but Rumble Johnson has a history that was kind of swept under the rug as he passed. A lot of people didn't want to mention his past and some of the issues he had. Um, but I don't know what the solution is. Like I said, I don't think that the man's got so much money in the world. There is no
Mm.
canceling him. There is no eliminating Dana
You,
White.
do you
You know,
think
it,
slap fights or whatever it is gets canceled on TBS?
I think I think it should. I think it should at least be postponed. I don't
Mhm,
like I don't see how you and I you know I, like where are all the I don't know what's the word, protesters, or not protesters, but the people that stand up for violence against women and stuff. Like, are they going to be picketing outside UFC events? Like there's going to have to be something that's going to force the hand of Endeavor and Disney. And I go back to Disney, like, Disney, this is you. Like, you're canceling events like during COVID that they're trying to run on Indian reservations, and you're using your strong hand to, like, affect what happens with the UFC, but now you're hands off. Like, make up your damn mind. Like, it's either a Disney product or an ESPN product, or it's not. I just, and a lot of this is, I think, was kind of created a little bit by Dana White by making himself the face of the UFC, by making him the most famous quote unquote fighter in the UFC. You know, um, he did that, which, is he too big to fail? We're about ready to
mhm,
find out, because there has to be, I don't know if it's a year suspension. To me, it should be an indefinite suspension. You make Reed Harris the new president of the UFC as an interim position right now,
mhm,
and you figure out what you're going to do. And if everything runs smoothly, you let Dana White disappear into the quote unquote sunset, I guess, and kind of let him disappear. And you continue running an organization that's the number one MMA organization in the world. But you can't put Dana White back on TV. Dana White's Contender Series can't exist anymore. Like, his name has to be eliminated from some of these
mm,
things. Just as a there has to be a punishment. If there's not a punishment, then what's next?
mhm.
Like, what's next? And
And the thing about it is too, if they're if the lack of response we're seeing from Endeavor and the UFC and the ESPN and anyone else that's that can do anything about it is because of the revenue that they've been able to drum up in the last 2-3 years. Um, then the fans need to act. And again, you're an MMA fan, not a UFC fan. Watch one championship, but watch something else. I mean, I hate to say it because there's a lot of great fighters that fight in the UFC. Some of them have been on this podcast. I don't want anything taken away from them. They shouldn't suffer from his, impulsive actions, his stupid actions that he did. Again, I mean, you're somebody that represents a sport that had enough hurdles to get to where it is now. And then you go out, like you said, at your age, in a place like that, with alcohol in the equation, and you're smacking your wife around, and you expect, what did you think was going to happen? Like,
It was just a matter of time. I mean, you could speculate on other chemicals that might be in his body that would cause
mhm.
someone to, lash out. There's all
Yeah,
that
we know
stuff.
folks with money like a lot of chemicals.
You
That's
know
for
and,
sure.
and
Yeah.
but to me it's like, but also like you talk about it, watching other organizations and stuff, and like the UFC fighters shouldn't be penalized for it, other than some of these jackasses who feel the need to,
Hmm.
to speak out and defend it for some reason. No, but Dana White doesn't need,
I
you
mean,
know
they have to do so because there's a huge, Then we have to talk about the thing with Phil Baroni killing his girlfriend. Like, Phil Baroni. Anyone looks up Phil Baroni, they're going to see him associated with the UFC. The article that I mentioned from MMA Fighting brings up the 2015 Real Sports thing about domestic violence and specifically UFC fighters. It's like, dude, now you have these the domestic violence associated with your brand after you fought so hard to get the brand to become a household name. There's kids training jiu-jitsu and MMA now. Like, there's a big ripple effect here that you're potentially, like, you really, these people, if they want to keep moving forward and making their money, if that's all that matters to them, then they really, the cryptic part about that article in MMA Fighting is that, what if it works? What if the fandom is so psychotic that if they just move forward and not address it at all, everyone falls in line and just keeps on, with their memes and all the bullshit that they like to do for UFC events, and you know what I mean? Like that's the dark side of today, like the way shit is today. And that's what I think why people are waiting for a response, because if we're going almost 72 hours, or I mean, it was New Year's Eve, so we're already midway through the week. We're recording this on Wednesday. Um, and nothing from anybody that's anything, nothing. Like TBS, you would think TBS would say, guess what? Keep your slap fights, put that on Fight Path. We don't want it here. You know, we don't want to promote you. You just slapped your wife. So, like, there's
yeah,
already.
I don't see how, I don't see how they have Dana White standing on a stage r- introducing people slapping each other. Like, I don't see how that
Mhm.
plays right now in 2022. Like, I just don't see, I don't see how that happens. And maybe it doesn't get canceled for all time and eternity, but like I said, like, okay, let's put it off till summertime and see
Mhm.
how this unfolds, and let's see, what, I mean, it's such a weird situation because you're like, in any other job, in any other, big, any other famous person got caught in the same situation, there would be repercussions. And
Mhm.
it's so weird. I mean, I don't know. It's frustrating, like you said, that nothing's been done, because it's not like you're gonna ruin the man's life by going, dude, you're suspended for
Yeah,
6 months.
he's fine either way. That's the thing. Like,
Like,
he got so much money now, especially after the sale to get to where they are when that sale happened in 2016, 2015, 2016. It was July of 2016 the sale
yeah,
happened,
yeah,
you
that's what
know?
I mean. Like, he's not gonna suffer anything other than some public scrutiny, which he deserves. But like, the UFC and Endeavor and them could save face by, quit. It's a 6 month suspension. Like,
Mhm.
and you could even figure out how to time it where he can come back during fight week. I mean, there's so many bullshit
Yeah,
ways
because
that,
look,
like,
aren't they talking about bringing Vince McMahon back to pro wrestling? Like, it's like, there's always something they could do, but you have to do something.
yes, you have to do something. You have to let it die down, because otherwise, if you let this build up,
Mhm.
you're creating a story every day. It could have been put to sleep. Like you said, 72 hours ago, this could have been put to sleep. And we'd be saying, "Hey, Dana White's been suspended. People made the right call. We're moving on." Like, it's not hard to do, and like, it's just amazing that they're willing to risk, their stock value and all this
Yeah.
other stuff to wait. The Baroni situation. You know, uh, again, I guess my situation with Brony going back to Twitter and the knuckleheads on Twitter is like you see people coming out of the woodwork going, "Oh, he was always an asshole," and it's like, well, there's a big difference between being kind of an asshole and killing somebody. Like,
Hmm.
and on top of that, like, you see Josh Barnett's tweet about, "Oh, I thought something was off with him a couple years ago when he did a pro wrestling," and it's like, well, where's the help? Like,
Hmm.
where are the people that are, Kevin Nicholson chiming in about CTE? Well, I think that there is something to that, but like until there's an autopsy to prove that, like he was always a loose cannon,
Yeah.
and he's
Just
always
let me read off Nicholson's quote directly. Barnett alluded to CTE as an issue with Baroni, and Baroni was increasingly irrational in his dealings with him. And I think maybe in the last few years, a lot of folks saw that. I mean, there's a lot of you could just do a search of Phil Baroni, and when you scroll past, the recent news, you'll probably see other stuff like that about him. But look, man, I mean, just to bring it all back because we're already going on 40 minutes. Um, the fact that this happened, and then the Dana White thing with his wife. I mean, it's the UFC's having a really bad first week of the year. I mean, and all that spills into the Endeavor numbers, like you said, the stock dropping. I mean, people are hearing it, but I mean, we're just what we're not hearing is what are they going to do about it? And if they don't do something, I think we have to do something, and that's put our eyeballs elsewhere until we get what we want. Otherwise, you're sending a message back to them saying, "Yeah, that's okay. You guys are the rich folks, so
yeah.
we'll
I mean,
sit here and wait."
I don't know where the UFC falls on responsibility of Baroni and taking care of him. 12, 13 years after he's left your organization. So like I don't necessarily hold him for that, but I just feel like you see these fighters like Barnett coming out. It's like, dude, like, well, did you make an attempt to help the guy? Like, I just hate when people pass away, and then it's like the same thing with Bonner. You saw, oh well, we knew he had some issues. And it's like, well,
Mhm.
while these people are alive, let's try to help them. Like,
Yeah,
where
yeah. If you
like
knew it, yeah, if you knew
if
it,
you
then
knew it, like,
yeah,
why send that tweet out after he just killed somebody? To me, that makes you kind of sound like, well, I don't know. Like, I just feel like sometimes some of the stuff's better just to be kept inside. Let's wait and see what. Well, there's not going to be an autopsy on Baroni. He's still alive, so that we're not going to know about
mhm,
CTE with him for probably never. Probably
mhm,
never. He's probably going to die in a Mexican prison, and we'll never see or hear of Phil Baroni again once he's charged, and we just hear the final news there. But um, I we knew he had problems drinking. We know he's had drug problems. We know he's had issues. Um, and it's like nobody ever steps in to help these people when they're alive and when they're, because guys like Mark Coleman have had it tough the last decade and a half. So you can't expect him. I know he doesn't seem to have a ton of money. He needed help with his surgeries and stuff. And the MMA community came together. And I know
mhm.
it's harder to get somebody into rehab and really do that, but it'd be nice to see. I mean, he fought in Bellator, he fought in UFC, he fought in Pride, he fought in all these organizations, and it's like, can we not put together some kind of help system for these people? Maybe he was unhelpable, maybe he was just so wacko that there was no,
Yeah,
maybe saving him. But it's just a shame. It's just a shame that you have to see it
yeah.
go down this way, and and I part of me hopes that there's CTE because like you just hope that nobody's that evil where they would just
Yeah.
randomly
I
decide
mean,
to kill somebody and
I don't know about hoping for CTE, but I mean,
well, I mean,
either way,
in his case, I'd rather have him have brain damage that caused him to do it
yeah,
than he just decided one day that I'm gonna do what he did. I don't know. Maybe that's warped thinking, but
yeah.
you
Well,
know,
it's again, we're going on 44 minutes, so it's time to wrap it up. But let's hope the coming weeks, as we move forward in the coming weeks of 23, move up from all of this. And I mean, we'll all be watching to see a reaction from the parent companies that still like to throw those three letters around of the UFC. And for folks that are listening to this, again, it's at around the 45-minute mark that I speak with Pam of Veracity Marketplace about CBD. If you're looking to do something to improve fight inflammation, sleep better, and stuff like that, please listen to my chat with her. And Matt, if you will, sir, please take us out.
Fans can check out the show weekly at allaccessmma.com. Check out allaccessmma.com for our video podcast, MMA news, and MMA stories. You can follow me, Matthew Hawkins, at MMAHawk21 on Twitter and Instagram. Follow the show at Combat Hour on Twitter, at Coast-to-Coast Combat Hour on Instagram. Check out Ed at Carbazol on Twitter, Carbeerzol on Instagram, and Old Head Carb on Twitch. Fun New Year's, rough aftermath. Hopefully we rebound. Like you said, we get some good news here. And then hopefully the fights start happening. We just have a spectacular year of entertainment and good stuff in the world of fighting. So we'll see what happens. Thank you for listening, everybody. Thank you for the comment, Kevin, as usual. And we will see you next time.
Peace.